In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro described the meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as historic and a triumph for the Bolivarian peace diplomacy. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation army continues to intensify its aggressions against the civilian population and hospitals in Gaza. In Serbia, more than 6 million citizens are called to the polls to vote this Sunday's early parliamentary elections. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, described the meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as historic and a triumph for the Bolivarian peace diplomacy. During an extended Security Council with the military high command, the Venezuelan president pointed out that it was fair and necessary to develop the consultative referendum for the Guyana Essequibo so that the population could determine the terms of the future of the Essequibo. In addition, he emphasized that they have kept on overcoming the test to consolidate peace and internal security in the country. Maduro also highlighted the success of the monolithic union of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces and the libertarian and unionist vocation of Venezuela before Latin America and the Caribbean.
The historic meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines last Thursday, December the 14th. That day will go down in the history of the Venezuelan peaceful diplomacy as a day when Venezuela's truth prevailed vis-à-vis Latin America and the Caribbean. A day of triumph for Venezuela's truth, for our libertarian vocation and unionist spirit, for our diplomatic capacity.
The Venezuelan president pointed out that it was fair and necessary to carry out the consultative referendum so that citizens could take a stance on the future of Guyana Essequibo.
Which was the first direct impact of the consultative referendum of December the 3rd. First impact that still has to be analyzed, especially by our people, in our families, in our communities. Later, when you're playing dominoes, that's where the most precious and valuable analysis is. The analysis of our people's conscience, to know that we are moving forward, that it was right and necessary to have the debate, to call for the referendum, and for popular sovereignty, to set the terms of the future of the Guyana Essequibo.
The Venezuelan president pointed out that a consensus was reached in St. Vincent and the Grenadines thanks to the historic step taken by the people and the Bolivarian National Armed Forces with the referendum of December 3rd.
Argyle Agreement for Dialogue and Peace. The title is conclusive, for dialogue and peace. And the communique should be read by all. You have read it, right? And was explained to the personnel. Explained. An agreement was reached that addresses this conjuncture, this situation. So I can say to the people and to the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, thank you for the historic step we took on December the 3rd. Thanks to the union of the people and the armed forces. Thanks to the power of the public institutions, the electoral power.
On Sunday in Chile, people go to the polls for a second referendum on a proposed new constitution drafted by the Constitutional Council. Polling stations open at 8 o'clock in the morning and will close at 6 o'clock in the evening local time. Some 15.4 million voters, among them 127,552 residing in 65 countries, are qualified to vote on this referendum to decide the latest version of a new Magna Carta drafted by the Constitutional Council. Electoral officials have urged people to exercise the vote in a peaceful manner without any violent incidents, and they have also reminded people that those who may choose not to vote are risking being fined anywhere from 32,000 to 192,000 pesos, equivalent to $37 and $221. Also in Chile, since early Sunday morning, people have been going to police stations to apologize for not voting in the constitutional referendum in a country where voting is mandatory. This has been the case despite the fact that the law only exempts from voting duty those who may be out of the country, those living over 200 kilometers away from polling stations, or those having a serious impediment duly proven before a competent judge. According to data provided by Chilean police, so far over 100,000 people have been excused from taking part in this Sunday's referendum. In Argentina, police forces evicted members of indigenous communities gathered in front of the courthouse to denounce violence and irregularities in the province of Jujuy. Since July, members of indigenous peoples in the north of the country marched from their homes to the city of Buenos Aires, capital of the country, as part of a march known as Malón de la Paz. The march aimed at denouncing the violation of their rights and the use of force against those who oppose the policies of former Governor Gerardo Morales and a reform of the region's constitution. In this context, protesters remain in Laval Square, awaiting a response from the justice system. In spite of the fact that the members of the march announced on Friday their return to their homes, after months of protest, they were evicted from the area by city police. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Operations against the civilian population in Gaza. According to Palestinian Health Ministry, the occupation continues its siege of the hospitals in Gaza. The Health Ministry has denounced activities committed by the Tel Aviv forces in the last few days, such as taking the wounded and medical personnel out of the hospitals. It also been reported that Israeli snipers destroyed the southern part of Kamal Adwan Hospital and fired at anyone moving inside the premises, preventing the entry and exit of medical teams and displaced people. The Israelis also shelled the Al-Shahaba clinic, which at present is the only maternity clinic in Gaza, and they have also attacked several ambulances transporting the injured. The recent events in Gaza have once again brought attention to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine. The Israeli massacre at Kamal Adwan Hospital has shocked the international community, as reports indicate that innocent civilians were crushed by Israeli bulldozers. Our correspondent Noor Harasin has the details.
For the fourth day in a row, and there is no internet, no net connection in Middle Gaza and Southern Gaza. Rarely those who are very lucky to have foreign lines can hardly connect and have some internet to check on their loved ones and their relatives. Meanwhile, here on the ground, Israeli warplanes continue striking areas in northern Gaza, in southern Gaza, and in Middle Gaza. What happened in Kamal Adwan yesterday, and we talked about it, about how the Israeli bulldozers entered the hospital, how they crushed the bodies of Palestinians, and many were killed. As you can hear the sounds of bombings. We are very close actually to the borderline between Gaza and Israel, and there's continuous shelling here in the eastern side of Gaza. Anyway, going back to the Kamal Adwan hospital, what happened there is a genocide, is a massacre. The Israeli bulldozers entered the hospital, crushed the bodies of Palestinians, and then killed, shelled inside the hospital, and evacuated hours later. Journalists who came inside the hospital and took videos and took photos, showed some disturbing images and videos of the bodies of Palestinians, women, men, children on the ground, smashed. This is happening in the north, while here in the south of Gaza and Middle Gaza, continuous Israeli airstrikes. According to Palestinian Health Ministry, 40 people were killed over the past 24 hours here in southern Gaza.
In Israel, the detainees' families demanded a ceasefire and agreement for the release of their loved ones after the Zionist occupation forces reported that they had accidentally cleared 3 Israeli captives in Gaza. The relatives denounced during the demonstration that while waiting for their relatives, they only received more and more dead bodies. They also expressed their fear that the mistake of the colonizers' army will be repeated and their relatives will be among the next to die. The news of the 3 Israeli hostages killed by their own army has caused outrage among the population. The Lebanese resistance Hezbollah carried out operations against the Israeli occupation forces stationed in the western sector of the border. In a release statement, Hezbollah confirmed it had attacked a bunker where Israeli soldiers were deployed in response to Israeli bombardments in the south of the country and in support of the people of Palestine. According to the statement, the action was carried out with appropriate weapons and caused injuries in the ranks of the Tel Aviv armed forces. The Lebanese resistance also reported on an operation against an Israeli military force in the vicinity of the Hanita position. On the other hand, Tel Aviv fighter jets attacked the eastern outskirts of the city of Blida and 5 others. In Syria, authorities report looting of wheat, barley, and oil by the U.S. occupation in warehouses located in the town of Al-Jarubiha. Residents near the border with Iraq report that an U.S. convoy of 55 trucks loaded with wheat, barley, and oil entered Iraqi territory through the illegal Al-Walid crossing, in addition to at least 40 tanker trucks loaded with crude oil from the oil fields, driven to the U.S. bases located in Iraqi territory. It should be noted that Syria produced until 2011 more than 380,000 barrels of oil, covered the domestic market of wheat, and figures decreased after the constant U.S. looting. Indonesians took to the streets to show their rejection of the United States and Israel following genocide unleashed in Gaza. About 3,000 demonstrators reportedly filled the center of Jakarta in front of the guarded U.S. embassy, carrying Palestinian and Indonesian flags. The protest was organized by the Indonesian Council of Mass Organizations, a Muslim conservative forum which urged Israel to stop its attacks against Palestinians with chants. The rally began after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Saturday that Tel Aviv was committed to war against Hamas. In Barcelona, citizens took to the streets once more to protest against the Israeli genocide in Gaza. As every week since the war between Israel and Hamas started 2 months ago, demonstrators gathered in the streets of Barcelona to reject the crimes committed by the occupation forces against the Palestinian people. The mobilization started at 5 o'clock in the afternoon local time at the Plaza de la Universitat and continued until reaching the San Jaime Square, the second most important square in Barcelona. Demonstrators this time are not only asking for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, but they are also asking the European governments to take pressure measures against Israel.
We have to exert pressure in any way we can, since those who have the strength to change things do not do it, or there are 4 people who are in charge, who are those who have the power, do not do it, for economic reasons or whatever. The only thing left is to take the streets and urge, demonstrate, shout, because this is not a problem of Palestine and Israel, of Jews and Muslims. This is a problem of all, and it will be a problem of all if it's not stopped now. And if we're not here, if those who are in the streets are not doing something, those who are governing are those who do not do, we must force them to at least try to break relations, or things like that, or not send them weapons, at least to show them that on the street we're not angry, we're outraged. We can no longer bear almost 20,000 murders. How to support a terrorist state like that of Israel? It's unbearable. There is no human mind that can bear it anymore. Every minute it's a new murder, and it's committed right now. We can't bear it anymore. Well, I think it is important to come here to really show our rejection of the situation. 18,500 people have already been murdered, many of them children. These are indiscriminate attacks on medical facilities. Doctors from entities such as Doctors Without Borders, who cannot do their job, who are sacrificing their lives, their beings, with their families, trying to protect them. We cannot stay at home. So it's a symbolic gesture to go out to the street to really claim that we don't want them to remain silent.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Found short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Serbia, more than 6 million citizens are called to the polls to vote in Sunday's early parliamentary elections. Over 8,000 polling stations open the doors at 7 a.m. local time. In these early elections, voters elect deputies to fill the 250 seats in parliament for a term of 4 years. Serbians also hold elections for the Assembly of the Northern Region of Vojvodina, as well as municipal elections in Belgrade and 64 other towns. Polling stations are expected to close at 8 p.m. local time, with early results expected to be announced a few hours later. The Russian government modernized 88% of its installed strategic missile system. The commander of such corps, Colonel General Sergei Karakayev, said that in 2023 they got some 80 pieces of new armament thanks to state contracts for the acquisition of arms and equipment. The general said this made it possible to arm 3 regiments with JARS and avant-garde missile systems. Karakayev said this modernization allowed them to equip strategic missile combat with equipment that will not be requiring any short-term replacements. In Russia, 2 dead and 2 wounded after Ukrainian troops attacked a humanitarian aid center in Kherson region with a multiple missile launcher system. Ukrainian troops attacked a humanitarian aid center in the Kherson region with missiles. One of them hit the ground and exploded during the delivery of humanitarian aid. 2 civilians were killed, 2 others were wounded, as well as the servicemen who helped with the unloading of the missiles. The governor of the region informed that the injured are receiving the necessary medical assistance in the nearest hospitals. At the same time, they confirmed that emergency operatives are working in the area of the event. Kherson separated from Ukraine and joined Russia at the end of September 2022 after a referendum in which the yes side won. In Canada, authorities are on alert following the death of at least 6 people and more than 150 confirmed salmonella cases. Canada's public health agency confirmed the presence of the bacteria in 8 provinces, including British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland, with Quebec reporting the highest number of cases. The majority of those affected are children and senior citizens, who were infected between mid-October and the end of November this year. In the United States, on Friday, at least 1 person was killed and several wounded in a shooting near a shopping mall in the city of Los Angeles. The incident took place around 2 p.m. local time on 2nd Boulevard Street. According to a police report, at least 5 people were injured, all of them males between the ages of 30 and 50, who were taken to a hospital. A 32-year-old man was pronounced dead due to complications from a gunshot wound in the upper torso. 3 others are in stable condition and the 4th victim remains in critical condition. The police continues to investigate the incident, searching for the attacker. Italian philosopher and activist Toni Negri, born in Padua in 1933, died at the age of 90 in Paris. Negri was a state theory professor at the University of Padua. He was also involved in the revolutionary struggle since the 1960s as a thinker and as an activist. He joined the Poder